Competitive Melee has been on a brief hiatus in terms of major events for the last month since the incredibly entertaining Smash Summit 9. CEO Dreamland not only brings us back into the swing of it with an event brimming with talent like Hbox, Plup, King, Axe, and Wizzrobe, but the event is the first in a string of tournaments that will pave the way to Melee's third major of the year, Pound. And on top of all that, CEO Dreamland is the Smash World Tour's inaugural event for Melee and Ultimate, which means whoever wins this gold-tiered event will be the first to claim the #1 spot on the leaderboard. So there's a lot going on this weekend, but that's why I'm here to help, by highlighting the players and storylines you should be looking out for this weekend in Orlando. And as always with these major events, I'll be doing live pregame coverage for the tournament this weekend over on Twitch. The schedule for this weekend streams are on the screen right now, but to make sure you don't miss out, be sure to follow me over on twitch.tv/SaveAsUntitled, linked down in the description. But with that out of the way, let's talk about the 6 players who I think have a reasonable shot to win CEO Dreamland. And to no surprise to anyone, we'll be starting with Hungrybox. Melee's best player in the world has done quite well at defending his title so far in 2020 with the 2 majors he's attended. At Genesis 7, he fell just short of winning the event, being double eliminated by Zayn, but beat Mango, Hax, Fiction, Captain Faceroll, and Pew Pew. Then at Summit 9, he put on an absolute clinic, not dropping a single game in pools against Hax, Amsa, Mango, Fiction, and Plup, and then won the final bracket, only dropping 1 set against Plup, ending the event 3-1 in sets against him. So Hungrybox was looking powerful when we last saw him, but that was a month ago, and his momentum alone won't be able to carry him to a victory at CEO Dreamland. But without any major threats for him in attendance, the Puff probably won't need it. Hungrybox sits up 9-1 on Plup, 3-0 on Axe, and 7-0 on both J and Nun across the last 2 years. King, despite his time away from Melee, is potentially the scariest player that Hungrybox may meet in bracket based on their 2-2 head-to-head from last year. The King is so much of a wild card though, so there's a chance he doesn't even make it to play Hungrybox, but we'll touch on that in his section. Wizzrobe is the other major threat for the Puff of the event, but the story is a more sketchy copy of the King one. Wizzrobe finished the year up 3-2 against Hungrybox, but he's busted out of Genesis and Summit already this year, so a deep run for him would be pretty surprising. More on that in his section. So as it has been forever, and how it will continue to be for the foreseeable future, Hungrybox is the favorite to defend his CEO 2019 title and win CEO Dreamland. And whereas Hungrybox's dominant showing at Summit came as no surprise to Melee fans, Plup's second place finish at the event that climaxed with his first set win over Hungrybox since CEO 2018 took many by surprise. Plup had the overblown perception of him underperforming at Summit, a recent ranking of 8th best in the world which was his lowest since 2014, and a 25th at Genesis beating Axe and losing to Pew Pew and Army, all weighing on his back, but that didn't hold him back. But before we jump into briefly talking about Plup, it's important to note that he has said on his stream that he doesn't have a good controller to use for the event, and if he doesn't get one in time, he'll be playing Luigi at CEO instead of Sheik or Fox. We're going to be operating under the assumption he'll be playing at full strength for the sake of this video, so back to your regular programming. Summit, however, wasn't a clean march to second, and his loss to Hax's Fox in pools, and 3 losses to Hungrybox across the event for sure call into question his ability to be able to win CEO. But with a nice bracket or someone upsetting Hungrybox, maybe Plup will even be the one to do it, I think there's definitely a chance for Plup to win the event. Performances like Summit used to be the norm for Plup, but as of late they're far and few between. But hopefully, we're on the precipice of a big change for him. When talking about King the last couple of years, I never know where to start. He's truly an enigma. He's pushing Hungrybox to his limits, and then a few weeks later he's getting ripped to shreds by Captain Faceroll. King could very plausibly win CEO Dreamland by double eliminating Hbox, or miss top 8 losing to Slugs, Ices, and Crudo Sheik. This volatility is what makes him so exciting to watch as of late, like some of my favorite players like Westballs and Null. I always gotta find a way to dunk on Null. Oh god, he's gonna kill me. The only indication we have of how he's playing as of late is his 13th place finish at Genesis 7. His ability to surgically dispatch Spacies is still intact, as he didn't allow Soonsei nor Professor Pro to take a game at Genesis. So I don't think we should be too concerned for King to drop sets to Panda, Magi, or Crunch this weekend. King also beat Army 3-1 with his Marth at the event, which feels like a momentous occasion with how hard he struggled in the past against the Frigid siblings. So with this recent breakthrough, plus the fact that wobbling is banned at the event, I'm not too concerned for the King to falter against players like Slug and Flipsy. His 2 losses to Amsa and Swedish Delight at Genesis do highlight where I think the gaps in King's armor are. It especially hurts me to see King's ability in the Sheik Ditto slightly decay, because his methodical play in the matchup was something I clearly remember beckoning me to learn more about Melee when I was first getting into the game. But if the seeding gods are kind to Mutaking, he won't have to worry about it this weekend, with Florida locals Crudo and Sinbad being the two most talented Sheik mains that could potentially gut check him before you'd have to meet Plup very late in the bracket. The Amza loss at Genesis does not speak to another character-specific issue, but instead to the players who've been grinding in his time away from the game. So after all that, we're essentially back to where we started. Can Mutaking win this weekend? Absolutely. Will he? We're gonna have to wait and see on that one, especially with what his projected path to doing so looks like when the seeding gets published. We'll next be talking about Axe, and as I get deeper into the script, the overarching story for CEO Dreamland is essentially, can these wildcards / recent underperformers beat Hungrybox? The underperformance was his false start to the year at Genesis, taking an early loss to Panda's Fox, which had him and Plup playing for 33rd incredibly early in losers in a match that he lost. It's exciting to note that Panda will be in attendance this weekend, but with how events are often seeded to not have players who've met recently play each other again, there would have to be some shenanigans for the run back to happen. And in this run back, Axe would definitely be the favorite to win. This vote of confidence that also has me placing Axe as the number 2 favorite to win the event stems largely from his Summit 9 performance. While Axe was still fighting off the end of his Genesis sickness, he wholeheartedly convinced me that Genesis was a fluke by beating Spark, Wizzrobe, Zane, Amza, and Fiction, while losing to Leffen, Plup, and Mango that weekend. The most significant bump in my faith in Axe came in a set versus Zane, where the Marth brought in some new tricks that allowed him to win the first 2 games of the set, but Axe used his deep knowledge of the character and the matchup to adapt on the fly and reverse 3-0 him to keep his record spotless against Zane. Axe's head-to-head spreads from the last 2 years against most of the top talent at this event combined with this to increase my expectations of a deep run even further. 4-1 on Wizzrobe and 3-1 on S2J are the most notable of these. But getting to top 8 generally hasn't been the problem for Axe in his Melee career. It's that final last couple of roadblocks that kill him, and the storyline that persists here in Orlando, with Hungrybox starring as the main bad guy. He got 2nd place at Genesis 6, his run was ended by Hungrybox. He got 5th at Summit 3, his run was ended by Hungrybox, and all the way back at Pound 4 he got 4th, and his run was ended by Hungrybox. It has been 6 years since Axe has been able to take a set off of Hungrybox, so I think it's fair to say that Axe needs a miracle, or much more likely, someone else to upset Hungrybox to be able to stand on the top podium at CEO. Plup's wins over him with both Fox and Sheik already this year places him as a likely run stopper as well, but with his character uncertainty, alongside the fact that Axe beat him just last year, makes this wall a little bit more flimsy. But that horrible feeling that Axe's fate is in part out of his hands definitely docks some points from his odds to win the event. So the storyline for Axe this weekend is all about consistency, with a little dash of hope that he can finally pop the balloon that has been stuck in the power lines for half a decade. And while Wizzrobe is in contention to win CEO Dreamland, especially given how hard he has pushed HBox in their sets across the last few years, my confidence on him reaching top 8 on winner's side is pretty low. My perception of Wizzrobe is actually the exact opposite of Axe. Let's first talk about his history with the Falcon Ditto, which he's pretty much guaranteed to play with S2J, None, and Gatsu all lurking in the bracket this weekend. He hasn't been tested this year against any of these guys, but if we take a look back to 2019 and 2018 head-to-heads, some red flags begin to appear. Against S2J, he's 1-3 since 2018, losing the last 2 times they met at Shine 2018 and Gommel 2019. He's met None the most out of the 3, and has also performed the best against him, being up 2-1 in 2019 and trading sets 4-4 in 2018. Lastly, he and Gatsu have only met a singular time since 2018, which was conveniently enough at CEO last year, where Gatsu won a close Game 5 set. Needless to say, this rusty Wizzrobe is going to hope that he can somehow avoid playing the Ditto this weekend, or better have started reviewing his past sets yesterday to see what he can improve on. The other matchup that has a decent shot to kneecap Wizzrobe's chances of doing well at CEO is against Fox. He had a tight set with New York's Wasabi at Genesis, and then failed to make any headway against Leffen, Fiction, or IBDW at Smash Summit. Obviously, dropping sets to 3 of the best Foxes in the world is nothing to be ashamed about. But when one of the best Foxes in that matchup is going to be in attendance this weekend, Wizzrobe has gotta be sweating. That player is Cobalt, whose record against Gatsu is one of those legendary Melee stats that is almost too good to be true. From 2017 to 2019, Cobalt was 56-2 against Gatsu. Cobalt is also 3-2 against Wizzrobe in this time period, which to be fair does include Wizzrobe winning their last meeting in a Game 5 set at CEO 2019. So that bumps the total up to 4 Sharks potentially circling Wizzrobe's pool, looking to further blemish his 2020 resume. And although I did say his prospects for winning the event are good if he's able to reach top 8 unscathed, it's still not going to be easy. Axe won the pair's last meeting at Summit, Hungrybox swept him the last time they met at EGLX, and he was barely able to close it out against Plup at last year's CEO. The story for Wizzrobe here is all about consistency. It's odd to think that a year ago, this was the same player who was ranked second best in the summer and was in contention for the best player in the world. I hope we can see that Wizzrobe again sometime soon, and maybe the Smash World Tour debut on his home turf could be the flint that sparks the Falcon's flame. And that about does it for this video. Let me know down in the comments what your personal hierarchy of likelihood to win the event looks like. My list as of right now is probably Hbox, Plup if he plays Sheik, Axe, Mewtwo, then Wizzrobe. And this list is super subject to change once we know about Plup and the seeding comes out. Also remember to follow me over on Twitch, link down in the description, so that you don't miss out on any of my coverage of the event this weekend. And that about does it for me. I've been SaveAsUntitled, and I'll see you guys next time.